Michelle's going to get you started on something else. We're going to have two over here to be the computer, okay?
So we want to take a few moments and get a sense of who's learning. So when it comes to looking at age groups, this will be very helpful. Can you give us an idea of how many people are in the room that are in between the age of 17 and 22? For real, y'all. Okay.
That's a
And how
blessed
many
age.
people in the room between the age of 23 and 28?
Oh, that's.
Okay. 29 through 34. Okay. Anybody who fits the description of 35 and above and is willing to admit. Okay. So, just one of the things that Dawn and I do, the name of our company is called Clearest Advantage. And what we do is help people stay on their A game at all times. You know we're going to go through the ups and downs in life, but how do you stay consistent on your A game so you're able to do your best? So, when it comes to moves, can you give me an idea of how many people here have moved 2 times or less in their life? You may have moved from, home to home, home to school. If you've gone to school and you come back and forth, let's count that as 1. How many times have people moved 2 times in their life? Okay, so we've got about maybe 9 people that have moved. How many people have moved anywhere from 2 to 5 times in their life? 2 to 5 times. And how many people have moved 5 times or more? Wow. Okay. So there's a lot of people. Keep your hands up right now. Wow, so a lot of people have moved and had experience when it comes to transition. Transition is a broad, they have broad definitions. And for each group, there's a different definition for the word transition. So, can somebody in the 17 to 22 range give me an idea of what they consider when you think about the word transition? What does the word transition mean for you? Anybody ready? Oh, yeah. I promise I don't know people that I know. When you think about the word transition, what comes to mind?
When I think about it, I think about graduating. Moving back home.
Okay.
Getting a job.
Okay. When you hear about the word transition from people that are older than you, your parents, other folks, how do they describe or define the word transition?
I would. Okay, for my parents, what's we on this, but like getting a year older or moving into retirement, something like that. A new phase of life where everything is different and you have to learn how to handle it. Kind of the same thing, but sorry.
No, that's good. That's really good because it is the same thing, but yet it is different. It is. Let's see, how about somebody in 23 through 28 who want to volunteer. Come on up here. Thank you so much. How would you define transition? What is the word? What comes to your mind when you think about the word transition?
I would say like moving from one place to another, like from one place it's different to another place it's different, whether it's like a season or like a physical location.
And when you have thought about people that are older than you, how would they describe the word transition?
To the afterlife or like or retirement. Retirement's really one too. Or like a lot of people who are immigrants going back to their native country.
Wonderful, wonderful. I appreciate it because what you're hearing is, and that's the funny part, what you're hearing is that from generation to generation, transition means different things for different people, and even when you're not that far apart in age, your experience shapes your view of things. So anybody brave enough from 29 through 34 that's going to come up here? In fact, okay, let's get some feedback from a gentleman. Come on up here.
Okay.
Come on. Come on up here. I'd love to have, it's important to have feedback from both sides, right? Women have shows that there is a difference in definitions from women as well as men. Okay, so when you think of the word transition, what comes to mind for you?
Change, like change the scene, and I'm just going to go here now, change the location, change the mood, discover.
Okay, so it's location. And what about other people that are older than you? How they define transition?
Well, there are two people retired this year, my older guy, so they got rest.
Right, transition does mean going from one phase of life to another. Thank you. And so, thank you for sharing. And I just want to ask about jobs. Because one of the areas that you all mentioned is transitioning when it comes to jobs. So, when we think about the jobs we've had, and I mean, I'd like to include, even when it comes to if you had a paper route, babysitting, helping mom and dad, how many of you have had 2 jobs? Just 2 jobs, 0 to 2. Okay. How about 0 to 5? Okay. What about 5 or more? Okay, so we have a lot of working people here that have had experiences going from different job to job. And your experience, I'm sure, is different as we go along. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to actually put into action transition.
Well, I was listening off to the side, and it sounds like all of you all have feel a variety of different things in your life. But it was also interesting to hear that the concept of transition was very different. Some people with pain points, and I think it was kind of interesting that someone said end of life for transition, because that's the new phase right about now, to say someone is in transition. But we have to be very careful of how we use our words before you buy into something, because using it that way, although it is popular, you're basically saying that something is dying. So we need to keep in mind what it is we buy into, because not everything we buy into is that powerful. Some things we buy into as a common culture, and we find ourselves caught in a place of powerlessness as opposed to being powerful. So, the 2 gentlemen over here, I want you to just move over a little bit, and I'm going to give you a task, and I'm going to give you 2 minutes to do it. I want the both of you to figure out how you're going to come and bring those balloons to me in 2 minutes, but you're not going to use your hand to bring your balloons to me. Begin.
You're holding.
All right. Now, I want you to take your balloons off, and I want you to give them to Michelle and I. And here, you can start the clock. You can start the clock on my phone and tell us when to go. And we're going to bring our balloons to you based on how we figure stuff out. Okay? Tell us when to go now. Now remember, the task is for us to bring our own balloon to you, right? For us to bring our balloon to you, okay, in less than 2 minutes. Okay, tell us when to go.
And go.
Women think alike.
We're all going to move it fast. Oh, that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. The thing about it is, the process of transition is all about how you get there. But because there is a culture, and gentlemen, thank you very much. But actually, let me tell you something so that you understand. How old are the two of you?
20.
You're 20? Okay, so one of the things that we do professionally for our clients and people that we work with, we have them do a quick little test to get a feel for things. And if you're actually working with them more in depth, we do a different kind of testing with them. A gentleman named Dr. Scott created it, and it's on a website called Talent Types. And what it does is it characterizes your strengths and weaknesses in your areas of talent for working with people. And when we're working with people, we do a little bit deeper dive so they can understand their strengths and their weaknesses, how they work with people, and ways in which they work best to accomplish tasks as a team. And so we kind of have to take a little bit of a test, spell that out, and help them understand it. The interesting part was the two of them were the same talent type. And both of them read as people who are very good at taking parts of a situation and problem solving, as well as empowering others and encouraging them to get there. So give yourself a hand. They figured out how to get there, but as soon as one got there first, the other one said, come on, come on. So my expectation was for somebody to do that because that was your talent type and that's what came up. So you need to understand, as you move within this organization, you've got two wonderful gentlemen who are inclined to not only work well, but to encourage others, and that's exactly what you're looking for. So thank you. You all are having an awesome time right about now in the transitions that you're making. And the key is to lay hold and embrace the transitions that are coming. A lot of times, the definitions that you hear, and sometimes with older generations, you hear their conversations about transition as pain points and something that is not such a great thing. And so that can be kind of a drag, and you kind of think, how's that working? It's not working. So I'm going to challenge you to see something differently, because once you begin to train yourself to see something differently, you will begin to see it all differently. Your values that you have that you posted up there, is there any way to get that up there real quick? I don't know if that's possible or not. This is kind of, okay, thank you. So your values, now this is my first time being here, okay? Well, the first time I saw that, and I looked at it, I was like, oh, cool, there's a really nice acronym. We see fire. I see fire. The C for compassion, the rest of the acronym spells out fire. Faithfulness, integrity, relationship, excellence. Here, I see fire. So
I saw fried rice.
and what I'm trying to say is, I don't know how long you had that. I know I just saw it today. But the reality is, when you see a situation and environment, you have to learn how to assess your environment. You have to learn about where you are, and you have to learn about the environment that's around you. The key to being proficient, and a lot of times moving through tough times, no matter what's presented, is being able to move that quickly to assess the situation. Michelle and I call that glimpse, and I'll let her tell you about glimpse.
So glimpse is seeing something at a very quick point, a snapshot. When you're glimpsing at something, you're not concerned about whether or not you're able to see the whole thing. It's like seeing a puzzle, you see the picture. You can't do the whole puzzle, so you take a piece. It's a decision to make a selection, and then what you have, you run with that. And you take it apart piece by piece. You've heard the expression before, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So you get the glimpse, that piece of the puzzle, and then you run with it.
And the other portion, the other part of that is when you're taking that piece understanding that it is part of an entire puzzle. So you don't get to be considered effective until you understand not only the piece you chose, but how your piece fits into the puzzle. Because there are a bunch of other people that have pieces too. And if you decide to do something radical with your piece, they can't complete the puzzle. So there is no such thing, and you don't have the luxury of just doing you. Now, the challenge in that is, because you all, a lot of you are in a younger generation, I'm going to say a younger generation, and I'm going to mark that by saying 35 and under. And a lot of times people throw around the terms of millennials, and you hear that term millennials. Well, just so that you know, somebody made up that term, and it's been used over and over again, but I want you to realize that the markers of age for that millennial thing changes like I don't know what. So the best one that you can say, I think they have it narrowed down to 18 to, I want to say 18 to 35, but then they also say if you find somebody who's 37 that uses a lot of technology, they can kind of scoot in there on the millennial side. That's kind of like a whole relationship with technology thing. It's a little bit loose. It's hard to define generations, and I'm saying don't get stuck on that either, because you start to cut off ideas about what someone's experiences are as well when you think strictly generation. And you're walking into a situation where you're going to have older generations, and I heard a slight groan when he said, oh, average 62, like, help me, Lord, okay. Because the thinking is somebody's not going to get it. I'm going to encourage you to shift your thinking. It's not that they're not going to get it. They've already got it, and they're hoping that you listen and don't have to hit your head. That's what they're hoping. Because the reality is, it is extremely painful to watch someone you care about get hurt. It's extremely painful. And a lot of times, when you're going through a transition, and people are trying to tell you something. I'm not saying you have to listen to everybody. That's where wisdom comes in. Not everybody needs to be listened to. But at the same time, even somebody who is 5 years old can impart wisdom from listening. And if I'm expecting to get something good, and I'm expecting to get something helpful, but if your mind is already set toward an expectation of they're not going to be able to help me, it doesn't matter if they gave you the key to become famous and wealthy. You will not hear them because your expectation is not there. So I'm going to let Michelle tell you some more about glimpsing a situation.
And before I even go to that, I wanted to mention the millennial group is the largest group, for years. And now I'm a baby boomer. I'm the tail end, the very end of a baby boomer. Well, thank you. And baby boomers were really loyal people that are really focused and really committed type folks. But when we come to the millennial group, what you need to know is that you're bigger than the baby boomers. The baby boomers, as they went through aging, they changed everything. So millennials, when you hear it, please embrace it and understand that you have an amazing opportunity to make a mark like nobody else has. So don't, even though millennials may not be something that is acknowledged for the fullness and the greatness and your potential, please realize that you have it right there, and you get to choose how it's documented and how you change the world as you get older. So I don't want you to miss that. Now, glimpsing. Glimpsing is something that you don't do one time. You get a glimpse, you make a decision, you move forward, you make changes, but then you're going to come back and do a glimpse again. You know, it's kind of like, I would say, eating a sandwich, an ice cream sundae. You can't suck it down all in one breath or you choke, but it's coming back. And as you come back, the view changes. You get different depth, you get different understanding. It's a process, it's something you should be patient with and understand it comes in chunks. So be patient with it, hang in there, understand it's a process.
Let me give you a real specific example that a lot of us can probably relate to. Let's just say you're on a job and you're working on a project or you have a task to do. It doesn't matter if you're filling up the shelves with something or whether you're working on a project with your computer. You have your day set, you have your schedule set, you know what you have to get done, and you're already almost at 5 o'clock before 5 o'clock comes because you're going to do this and run through it. Somebody comes along and says, I need you to do this. And you get kind of annoyed. That's your first response because you had your day planned, right? Let's just you have to be honest here. And not just you have to be honest here. I can only help you as honest and transparent as you're willing to be, okay? So you get annoyed because they interrupted your schedule, because you had your schedule. And in fact, I'm going to go so far as to say that the reason why you're annoyed with your schedule being interrupted because you've already told yourself, I'm going to be less productive and not as successful because they interrupted me. Okay, that's what you're saying. Because there is a push for success. With technology today and with a lot of other mediums, you know that you can be better, stronger, quicker, faster at the click of a button and a technique. And that's the greatest thing in the world because you don't have to sit all day figuring it out. But sometimes I wonder, how many people know how many power grids there are in the U.S.? Do you know? See, we know. There's 3. The whole U.S. is powered by 3 power grids. And out of the 3, the state of Texas has 1 to themselves. Which means the rest of the U.S. has to just draw a line straight down the middle. Power grid East Coast, power grid West Coast. It doesn't matter whether New York, New Jersey, Florida, any of those, there's 1 central power grid that everybody connects to. Now, do you think there's any real major security around it?
No.
No, actually not.
Thank you.
Do you think it's government regulated that somebody says you can't come here X, Y, and Z?
No.
Private owned? So that means that the very thing that you think you can move stronger, faster, quicker, using is based on a system just that fragile and you don't even know it. If it went out, all that speed goes right down the drain. Now, personally, I'd probably be okay. I got some phone numbers memorized in my head. I know some directions, basically. I can pretty much figure it out. And the thing about it is, if I was even trying to find a word in my Bible, do I have a paper version in front of me to go to? Or do I strictly rely on my electronics? There's a certain beauty in electronics, but you also have to understand that the U.S. government expects, and this is something that's very real, that in a disaster, you are already prepared to make it through for 72 hours without their help. That is the standard, that's the expectation, which means if you don't have enough water, if you don't have enough preparedness, if you don't have enough food, if you don't have enough medicine, if you don't have enough of that, you are basically considered being unprepared.
Oh, and by the way, when the power goes out, the water doesn't work. Just to let you know.
So there's a whole level of thinking. Why do we say these things? Because what happens is we've gotten so excited and comfortable about how quickly and instantly things work, we don't stay in a frame of mind of preparedness. However, there is an expectation without them waving a red flag that says preparedness. I think a year ago, there was actually Fulton County Preparedness Month, and it was interesting because there was a little sheet that came out, a little flyer that listed all these things for what you're supposed to have and what you're supposed to do, and I just kind of chuckled because when I looked at the list, I was like, was anybody even told to get the list? Who knows to get the list? Who knows to get the list? If you don't even know to get the list, because it says in really tiny print that there's an expectation of sitting there, I mean, it was really small on that flyer. This is the world you live in for all its greatness and speed, but there's a level of preparedness you have to have. On your job or where you work, there's a level of preparedness you have to have, which means when someone upsets the rhythm that you have already prepared, instead of you staying in a place of non-productivity, you need to move quickly to getting a glimpse of what the situation looks like. So if somebody says, I need you to finish this at 4 o'clock, some people are going to immediately think you're trying to mess me up and hinder me from doing a good job. How many people want to admit that they probably think?
Oh, that's right.
Okay. I'm going to challenge you to start to change that to, they trust me so much they know I'm just that good, they know I can handle it. And they could have picked anybody else, but they picked me. And in fact, I've got the skills to do it and do it well and do even better. Now, that proves to be true if you take the task at hand, complete the task, but you complete the task within consideration of the fact that someone else has to do something with it and it's not all yours, that you're a piece of the puzzle. So that means that if they ask you to fix something, even if you thought somebody else should have done it, someone else is waiting for it and relying on it. And if you want to keep a good attitude and actually be successful and have the task in front of you, be known as you doing an excellent job or doing your job with excellence, then that means you have a positive attitude. That means that you don't wait till 4 o'clock to finish at 5 so you can walk out the door, and then everyone else that needed that piece you had has to stay late because you got it done when you wanted to get it done. That's not excellence. And that's not exercising wisdom within getting a glimpse of the situation. What you did was address the situation, you did it, but you did not get a fuller picture of what is needed. That's kind of a snippet of how we are required to operate, to be on your A game. Because when people recognize that there's a level of compassion and consideration for people around you, they will entrust your judgment in managing people. And aren't we talking about managing people? It's the simple things, it's the little things, but they mean a lot because it speaks to who you are and where you are, seeing where you are in the bigger picture and where it is that you're going. If you can't see where you are and where you're going and what you bring with you when you go, your transitions are going to always be rough because you missed the mark.
I actually think that you covered glimpse really well. I think you covered glimpse really well. So glimpse is just the first level of the 5 levels of greatness that we went over with you.
And I would also encourage you all for the way that you set your days up in terms of dealing with people in your day-to-day environment, that you trust and believe that you have something to offer them and they have something to offer you. If you take the position that they have something to offer you, you will catch just the smallest word of wisdom that helps you that you didn't think about before. Many times we get going and we again are so focused on getting it done. I have to do that with some of my children. One of them in particular who, very, very bright child, God bless him, and he wants to get it done and can actually articulate and have a full discussion on why what he did was good enough. But I say to him all the time, I said, here's the difference. If you do your homework and wait to get it done, you can even get an A on it. But when it comes time to actually show that you have mastered it, you're going to have to go all the way back to the beginning and study that thing again. Spend some time with what it is that you need to understand so that you have it like you know your name. You save time, you save energy, you actually get to play more Because then you're not searching for understanding. You're not trying to go back to what you might memorize. You actually have it. And the beautiful part about understanding, wisdom, and knowledge, when you have it, no one can take it away from you. And you are forced to be reckoned with everything you build upon it. And that's what makes you stronger, quicker, faster, and on your A game at all times. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. You have a question?
Did I miss pain points? Did you define them?
I can define it for you more clearly. Your pain points are when you get into a situation where someone asks you to do something different and it hurts because you don't want to do it. Did anyone else have any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
What are the 5 levels of greatness?
Say that a little louder.
What are the 5 levels of greatness?
We spelled out the acronym actually great, so
It is a glimpse. You're going to get a glimpse of something. Then you're going to reassess it. You're going to adapt and adjust. And then you're going to, excuse me. So G is for glimpse. R is for reassess. E is for E is for edit, and then A is for adapt and adjust, and then T is for transcend. So each step has a different part to it, but when you add it all up, it's a process of going through.
So how do you embrace like different principles